To celebrate Black History Month with a Valentine's Day twist, here are 3 romances written by Black authors featuring Black protagonists that I think everyone should read. Before I get started, I just want to let you know that I have included timestamps, so if you want to navigate to different books that may be of interest to you, go ahead and go to the description and go to the time code for the title that you want to know more about. Also, I'm going to be including a section where you can see some honorable mentions and awards for each of the books that I'm mentioning, as well as some additional information. So for example, if there's an adaptation or something like that. So let's jump in. So first up is If Beale Street Could Talk by the very popular and influential James Baldwin. This is one of his popular works, and it is told from the perspective of Tish, a 19-year-old girl who is engaged to her boyfriend or fiance, Fonny, an artist who's also the father of her unborn child. Now, they have their heart set on living the American dream, but this dream quickly becomes a nightmare when Fonny is falsely accused of a crime and is sentenced to serve a prison term. So while their families are, finding a way to clear his name, their romance is kind of thrown into very tumultuous terrain. So some points of interest that I particularly love about this particular book is that not only is it a really powerful love story that's very complex and just rich with different types of emotions and different layers of emotions, but it also addresses the theme of social injustice and how it impacts not only the Black community as a whole, but the Black family structure. So I think it's a very relevant book to read, especially for Black History Month, if you are trying to learn more about, the themes of mass incarceration, social injustice, and so on. So definitely I recommend giving this book a read, because overall I think it hits so many different points that it's definitely well worth the time. My next book recommendation is Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. This is probably my favorite book of all time at this point. It follows the story of Grace Porter, a 28-year-old who has recently completed her PhD program for astronomy, and her life takes an interesting turn when she decides to go out on a girls' trip to Las Vegas to celebrate her latest achievement, and uncharacteristically gets drunk and ends up marrying a girl that she's just met while in Vegas. So it starts out with a very light catalyst to the story, and it's very fun and interesting. But what I really love about this book, and a huge point of interest for me, is that aside from the fact it is dealing with a lighter kind of trope as far as getting married to a stranger in Vegas, it explores a lot of deeper content. So for example, Grace Porter is a person who's very by the book. She's following her father's plan for her life as far as how to succeed in her career. And after completing her PhD, she's now wondering, what is she supposed to do with that education? And she's also coming up and facing obstacles such as systemic racism in academia, especially being in the STEM field. So I think that is a really interesting topic that we need to discuss more: systemic racism, how it affects Black individuals in academia specifically, and how it affects Black women. Not only that, but it also covers the topic of Black mental health. I think that a lot of Black females, and probably, a lot of Black people in general, just don't necessarily take the steps necessary to address their mental health and to always take time for self-care. So I think that focusing on a character who is dealing with things like anxiety and past trauma just from her parents' divorce and things like that, and needing to express the stress that she's feeling with all of the pressures as to how she's supposed to succeed in life and how should she go about it. I think it's really important for people to see a character that is taking the initiative to work on her mental health, to better herself, and to take care of herself. Not only that, this book covers a lot of things, but one of my favorite things that it handles, aside from mental health, aside from looking at what it is like to be a Black individual in academia and some obstacles you may face, it also has just such wonderful representation of queer characters of color. So Grace Porter, she is, she's gay, she's a Black female, and this is a perspective that I think we need to see a lot more, and a lot more representation in the media, whether it's in books, in movies, in series, and so on. So I love that. And not only that, but we see a cast of characters that are very diverse in terms of ethnicity, in terms of race, and in terms of representation across the LGBT+ spectrum. So we see a lot of we see different gender identities, we see different sexual orientations, and I think it's just so amazing to be able to see that representation from a character that I personally can relate to because she looks like me. So that's absolutely amazing. I definitely recommend picking up this book, and although it does deal with, you know, some more serious subjects, it also has a lot of fun, sweet, warm moments that take place between Grace and her wife as she gets to know her. So I definitely recommend giving this book a try if you have not read it. I think more people need to read it. Real quick, if you are enjoying this video, make sure to hit the like button. That way it can be recommended to anyone else who may enjoy it as well. Okay, so my third and final book recommendation for this video is Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry, a young adult fiction romance novel. Now, if you are a subscriber, and you should be, I'm just saying, if you haven't subscribed, you should. If you want more book recommendations, you know, if you are a regular subscriber, that I just love young adult fiction. It's one of my favorite categories, and I'm also getting into new adult fiction as well. And I like it just for the freshness of it. The characters aren't as jaded, and you know, these are characters that are experiencing things for the first time, so you're able to like kind of see life from a new perspective with each young adult fiction novel that you read. So I personally like that. As a person who has gone through these experiences, it's nice to relive them from time to time. So this story follows the perspective of Quinn, a girl who kind of lives in her head. She writes down everything that she experiences and she feels in her journal or in lists, and this is very private information for her until somebody steals her journal and blackmails her into facing 7 of her fears so that he or she does not expose her innermost secrets to her high school. So in order to catch this blackmailer, she actually teams up with Carter Bennett, a boy from her high school, and this is kind of, I think, a enemies to lovers situation, and they have to work together to find whoever stole her journal so they can put this whole blackmailing situation to an end. I really love this book because I think it focuses on a part of Black culture that needs to be talked about more and promoted more, which is just the lighter side of being Black, like just Black joy. This is a young person, you know, she's being pushed past her comfort zone. She kind of has to like go on this like journey or adventure with this boy at her school. She opens herself up to romance, and I think we need to see more of that because not everything about being part of the Black community is so heavy and serious. There's so much joy to be had. There's so much happiness to be had. There are so many memorable experiences that fall outside of like social injustice and discrimination and, you know, all the other things that we see in the media about the Black experience, because I think it's important, just because we need to celebrate Black joy more. We as Black people do experience the entire spectrum of human emotion. The Black experience is not separate from the human condition. It is part of the human condition. We really need to focus on promoting that fact in our literature. So I think this is a powerful example of that because it is a lighter read, and it's really about this individual just emotionally growing and coming of age in a way. I definitely recommend giving this book a try. Not only is it kind of a lighter, fun read, but you also get to see this character's growth, and I think that's why a lot of us are so drawn to young adult fiction anyway, because we love to see that character arc, because chances are if you're a young person, you're going to go through a few character developments along the way to becoming an adult. So I definitely recommend reading this book. Which of any of these books do you plan on reading? Or if you've already read them, what did you think? Comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.